Evening, everybody, and welcome to Scarfy Spurs Talk. As you can see, Harry is not with us tonight. He has gone big in the transfer market, though, and has got myself, Wes McGrath, in to do hosting duties, and I'm joined by some fantastic people. Ashmatic, how are you, my man?
I'm well, I'm good, bro. How are you guys?
Yeah, all good. Looking forward to talking Spurs. And then I got Justin, bottom right of the screen. Justin, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to it. It's been a while, and with the way the international break's going, I think it'd be nice to take my mind off it.
Nice one. And lastly, we've got Travis in the building as well. Travis, how are you?
Even though, yeah, it was a last-minute thing. I think someone unfortunately couldn't make the show tonight, so I've come on lastminute.com, which is always a pleasure to be on. So Harry's show is obviously always very, very good. It's obviously a shame he can't be with us tonight, but yeah, it's good to be back on.
Absolutely. So, Travis, you're on super sub duties, which is usually my gig on different podcasts. But Travis, we're going to start with you. Obviously, we have quite a big game, I think, coming up. And that is Aston Villa. So talk to me about your thoughts going into the Villa game.
Yeah, I mean, Villa are obviously a team in form at the moment. They're playing really, really well. Yeah, so I'm dreading that game, to be fair. Obviously, with the injuries and obviously the players that obviously got suspensions at the moment. But hopefully, Big Ange can work his magic and get a good team going, because we are going to struggle inevitably. We are going to struggle, and obviously Villa are flying at the moment. Obviously, going to be competing for Champions League. So,
yeah, no, definitely. Ashmatic, are you of the same opinion there as Travis? Is this game going to be as tough as we're all anticipating, given Villa's form recently?
Yeah, I'd have to tend to agree. I mean, I'm optimistic as a fan because I think as a fan, you should always be optimistic and hope for the win. I think we've got the home advantage, the crowd, and the longer they don't score, the better, because I do believe in game state. So Villa tend to start well when they lead and they kind of hang on to it when they're losing a game and they don't really come back from like behind from 2-0 down and stuff like that. They often take the first goal and then they're able to control the game. So if they can control the game, then there's less pressure to kind of go for the winner, and they just kind of build on that. So I think that's the reason why they haven't done as well away from home, because against Forest they went down, against Liverpool they went down, and so I think it was Newcastle, they had a bit of trouble as well. But just in general, Aston Villa, they like to take control of games, and this will be no different. As we said before, their away record is poor, and so I'm hoping as a Spurs fan we could take advantage of that, having the 12th man in the crowd. I'm sure everyone will be excited to see Big Ange and just Tottenham back in action. So with those factors, I'm hoping, but I do share Travis's worries with obviously our two centre backs not being our natural two starting centre backs, and I feel like we may drop back a little bit further than normal, naturally, because those players aren't on the ball as good as the two centre backs that we have normally, and we like to push up high and centre backs get involved in the game and push the other team back a bit. And I'm not sure if that midfield trusts the centre backs, if that makes sense. And so I look at a player like Højbjerg, for example, and he will sometimes drop into that kind of defensive line, making the back free, but that's not Ange's style. And I saw against Wolves, he kept telling them to get up the field, get up, push. And they were going back into like a Conte mode. That's why everyone was like, oh, it feels like Conte ball, like, oh, crying. But also the fullbacks, I'm very happy to see Udogie back. So Udogie coming back is going to be a massive plus, because you've got Emerson Royal in the last game, a right back playing in a left back role, and I think he plays different as an inverted fullback, slightly different. He's a lot more attacking, can play a little bit higher up. Sometimes he plays as an 8, Udogie, and I remember him getting to the byline, cutting back, doing those type of things, just getting involved in that overall play. I think Udogie will be a great plus for us. So I'm just hoping that But I'm midfield three. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm sure we're going to talk about it. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that, man.
Nice. And Ash, I think you might be in for a job at Sky Sports soon with that analysis. That was wicked.
Sorry, be quick. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. I like it. Are you of the same opinion as the other guys, or have you got anything else potentially that you want to add?
I mean, sort of looking back through it, I do very much worry for the game. You know, if you look back through against Villa, I'm pretty sure last year we lost against them, and the year before we lost against them as well. We tend to really struggle against them, and I think as well, when you look at Aston Villa as a whole, they're kind of one of the informed teams at the moment. The only blip in recent games was against Nottingham Forest away, so you could argue, well, this is away for home for them, could this be the same? But I think if you're Aston Villa, you're pretty much going to be sort of on the case of, we've got to be on the front foot, we're going to go at them, because ultimately, you know, that there is going to be a lack of trust in the defence, because ultimately we've had 50% of it just wiped out. So I think, you know, the likes of Diaby, who I've seen, who I think has been brilliant this year. You've obviously got Leon Bailey, Ollie Watkins, you know, John McGinn, people like that who can really push forward, Douglas Luiz even, who can really hurt us. And I think we potentially may struggle. It depends, obviously, as how he sort of sets up, you know, whether he goes with, you know, the only change being Bentancur replacing, you know, Maddison, and then Højbjerg. Is Basuma now back?
No,
he's suspended for this one, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So then obviously Højbjerg coming in for Basuma. But again, you know, I've said it on a previous show. I personally think this would have been a prime opportunity to have shown some of the youth players an opportunity, you know, and actually giving them, you know, a showing of what they can do. You know, they seem to be doing well at lower levels, but whether he has had to go back to, you know, and Ash said it earlier, you know, the Conte style defenders who ultimately are going to get a lot of opportunity in that game. And that's, I think, what worries me, is it's not only the defense, but it's the lack of creativity we're going to have, you know, up top, you know. So when you would think if it's an attacking team going against an attacking team, I would have fancied us. But when you're looking at the fact that we are ultimately going to be in a position of a lot of weakness, you know, they're going to pretty much be full strength. We're not going to have our playmaker and our two centre backs. I'd be very impressed if we got a draw out of the game, to be honest.
Nice. And I think for me in particular, it's a case of I'm half glad that it's at home as opposed to away. Although I know our record at Villa Park over the years is usually a good one, but I just feel the way Villa are going, especially at home, really strong home record. I think it's like 13 straight wins. You know, they seem to have really got the crowd with them at Villa Park in recent times. I think Unai Emery's done a cracking job, but I also think that if we attack them and properly go at them, I think we've got to be really, really careful. And because of the counter attack, as you said there, Justin, obviously the pace of someone like Moussa Diaby, Watkins is no slouch. You've got even Leon Bailey in there. Villa have got some real speed in the transition as well, and they've got some good players in midfield that can really hurt us. So no, it's going to definitely be an interesting game, I think, come Sunday sort of afternoon. And Ash, I'm going to come to you for this one, only because you briefly mentioned it. What do you think Ange is going to go with in terms of a starting 11 on Sunday?
Pretty much the same. In terms of the back four, obviously the doggy will come in. Vicario will start alongside Ben Davies and Dyer, two centre backs. Ben Davies left centre back, and Dyer right sided centre back. Right back would be Porro in that right back, and then in midfield, Justin's already said it. Højbjerg as the 6, Sarr as the right-sided midfielder, and on the third side, I think I wouldn't mind it being Bentancur, and I wouldn't mind the manager giving him some trust, but I just feel like he hasn't got that full fitness, if that makes sense, that full match fitness. I think that's why he was brought on as opposed to starting against Wolves. I know he did play and get some minutes for Uruguay, but again, he came on for Uruguay. He didn't start for Uruguay. So for me, I think the logical would be to go for GLC. I'm not a massive fan for him, but as in terms of creativity, he's probably the most likely in that position. And then I think the front three would stay the same. A lot of people are asking for Kulusevski to go in as being the number 8, adding some creativity, because they feel that on the right hand side, he holds onto the ball a little bit too long. He could, he sometimes cuts back onto his left foot quite a bit. And if he was used as an attacking 8 where Maddison's deployed, maybe he would be a better fit than maybe someone like Bentancur that's not completely fit, or GLC who's not had many games, he hasn't started. He hasn't fancied him, has he? And for some reason, he didn't. Palace, Bentancur got the nod ahead of him, coming on. So that was a big surprise for me. Chelsea again, he didn't really get to look him. There wasn't for Bentancur came on with GLC against Wolves. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but Gio has actually come out and said that he wants to be with the club past the window, and so is Højbjerg, which is interesting because they were the 2 players that I thought could have been leaving this January. So, but I imagine there won't be too many changes, just the left back and the James Maddison role. And I think logically it should be GLC. So, but I don't think any of the youngsters are going to get a look in, because I think the jump up between the under 21s and then the first team, Premier League is too much of a jump in Ange's eyes, not in my eyes. I think that's what Ange's seeing. He wants people with senior experience. Now we look at the Championship. I think it was League One we played. I think it was a League One team under 21s played, and we got beaten. So it just goes to show the levels are there to be taken up. But sometimes you just have to trust. Sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Phillips just for the pace. Apparently, Dorrington's a bit better technically as a centre-back. That's what a lot of people are saying. So either one of them, I wouldn't mind seeing, if that meant that our centre-backs were more confident on the ball, which led to our midfielders to be further forward, then I would definitely include those options in the team. I'm pretty sure they'll be on the bench, but whether they start, I doubt it very much. And I think that's what a lot of Spurs fans have been calling for. It's been a massive debate on YouTube. Does Ange trust in the youth? I mean, he did it at Celtic, but he seems not to be doing it here. And I think the difference is being that with the youth, because they haven't had, like Sarr, for example, he had already experienced first team level at what team was it? Not Lens. Metz. That's Met. And he already had experience for his country. So at a first team level. So that wasn't too much of a risk to throw Sarr in. So I think that's the difference between maybe like a Phillips that came from the Championship and maybe like your Ben Davies or your Eric Dyers that have had, many years of experience. And they did make a top 4 team. So I'm not a fan. I'm just saying, I would take the risk if it was me, but I don't think Ange will.
It's interesting. Justin, who makes the cut for you? I would like to. I've seen you staring at something, so I'm hoping that's either a phone or a notepad noting down.
Well, it's to be fair, it was really looking at the team he put out against Wolves, and what I would like and what he will put out, I believe, are 2 different things. So, I would like
go for both.
Well, for me, I think you have to go with Pedro Porro in terms of, on that side. Personally, and I think it would be, it's one of the things that I don't seem to understand, how we seem to be the only football club in the Premier League who can't just throw youth players in and give them a go. We seem to be petrified of it, and yet other clubs will do it no problem at all. We see United do it, City do it, Liverpool do it, and yet we're meant to be one of these big clubs and we won't do it. Me personally, I would have gone with Porro. I would go with Udogie, and I would then go with Dorrington and Phillips. I really would. I would sit there and think, do you know what? We need to start showing these under 21s and under 19s there is a pathway, because at the moment there isn't. I know that people think it's going to be different with Ange, but at the moment he's not proving it. He has gone back to type. How you can turn around and be clear about the fact that Eric Dyer does not have a future at this football club, and then you bring him straight back in, you know, starting when he's had no minutes, not a single minute he's played. I sit there and I think that is absolute hypocrisy. I do. That's the only criticism I have. In terms of the middle, I would go with what I said, which was Bassouma, Sarr and Bentancur. But then I would probably, after an hour, bring Bentancur off and bring Jamie Donnelly on. And then it's the three up the top, Johnson, Kulusevski and Son. But I'm guaranteeing you now, I will be stunned if it's any different from the team he picks that he picked against Wolves.
Interesting. And I find this whole youth debate quite an interesting one, because I think Ange has shown, for me, to a certain degree, like, okay, he knows about the players in the 21s and the 23s. And if we obviously look at the Wolves game in particular, there was Ash Phillips and Alfie Dorrington on the bench, but I think Ange wants to include them. I think it's just a circumstantial.
The only thing I would say to that, is that if you look at the managers he's had before him, they were in Daniel Levy's eyes, they were win now managers. They were there to win now, so they were never going to get a chance. I think they were brought in almost as like statues to use for people to run off them from training and things like that. For Ange Postecoglou, this is a completely free hit. This is a total free hit. You know, it's not a case of, you know, he's been brought in, he's got to get top four or he's sacked. I think it's a clear indication that he's got time. This is a building project. So I don't, you know, and no fan is going to sit there and be critical of these players coming in and making a mistake, because actually what it is showing is that there is a change, that the players that have failed this club year after year after year, I'm sorry, enough's enough now. You need to move on. We're not going to be bringing you forward. What, to me, he's done at Wolves and what he will do against Villa is prove, actually, I need to win. So in my eyes, I don't trust what I've got in front of me, even though we know that, to be honest, you know, if we did a poll, who would you prefer to have starting, Dyer or Phillips? I'd be very surprised how many people pick Dyer over Phillips, even though he's untrusted.
Yeah, no, I think Ash Phillips, for me, I think I've said it on a few other shows before, is a defender who will definitely come good if he's anything to go by on his Football Manager stats anyway. He will definitely come good like he does on that particular game. But yeah, I think it's a difficult one, because I even look at Mourinho, and he tried to introduce Troy Parrott into the first team, rabbit in headlights. He tried to introduce Dane Scarlett and drip fed him into the first team to give him that exposure. And for me, Dane Scarlett is going to be in a very similar mould to Marcus Rashford, in the sense that, okay, comes through the ranks as a centre forward, but then hits first team level, especially at Tottenham, and will probably play out on the left. Obviously, Mourinho also, you know, gave Alfie Devine his debut, and obviously scored in the FA Cup against Marine. So I think it's more about the timing and the circumstances of when you throw a youngster in, as opposed to being reluctant to
balance impact. At the moment, in terms of Premier League, none of the youngsters have any Premier League experience, and that's the part you have to, at some point, learn to be comfortable to change, because at the moment there isn't. It doesn't feel at the moment those.
He did put Tanganga against Liverpool.
Yeah.
He was another youngster. That didn't really work out too well. I mean, Liverpool was amazing, but again, it's that whole debate. Are these kids really ready?
The problem is, though, that we sit here and as a club, we get frustrated about the lack of spending, or, you know, so in eyes of what we see, that the lack of spending. But one thing we seem to have always struggled with, and there's got to be a way, you know, for us to break the mold, is how do we bring our youth forward? Because what we've done so far hasn't worked, you know, whether it be sending them on, you know, however many loans, trying to integrate them slowly. It's almost as if, you know, you almost have to just rip the plaster off and go, do you know what? Sink or swim, you know, because we seem to be trying all these other ways, but with the mindset of, oh, we don't want to we don't want them to burn out. We don't want to, ruin them and things like that. But you look at the players that we've had for our youth ranks who we've just turned around, not given them a chance, dumped them off somewhere else, and actually haven't done too badly. Marcus Edwards at Sporting Lisbon, there's always those links of him coming back. So you sort of look at some of these players that we don't give that opportunity to. We send them somewhere else and they actually do thrive. And you do feel Tottenham need to really assess that, because at the moment, that is the one big area we just don't seem to be getting right.
But then for me, just a West Ham fan actually posed this question to me a little while ago. And it was more of a case of the big clubs in particular don't usually tend to get it wrong when it comes to a youth player. Because I think it was around the time we sold Dylan Markandy actually to Blackburn, and loads of fans were going mental about it. And then it was like, well, actually, how many have we sold from the academy that have then gone on to actually achieve something? I know, like Marcus Edwards went away and now he's kind of earning his stripes a little bit at Sporting Lisbon. Obviously, Madueke did some good things at PSV. Obviously got his big move to Chelsea. But then, like, for me now, I'm looking at it going, well, other than those two, I'm kind of struggling.
Well, I mean, he didn't come through our youth system, but you could argue Jack Clark. You look at what he's now doing, particularly at the Championship. So it's very difficult to try and pinpoint exactly how we go about fixing it. But I do feel, particularly like a club like Tottenham, who are never going to spend in the same league as City, and as Chelsea and things like that. This is an area that I would ultimately think has to be the biggest, thing they need to factor in and really look at. Because if you look at our under 19s who, are smashing it in the international level and at league level and things like that, you've got to think at some point, because one of the things I've also found is the loans that we put people on, just 9 times out of 10 don't seem to work. Dane Scarlett's not getting a game now at Ipswich, and you look at, Tanganga, I know he's been injured, but struggling to get games at Augsburg, or you look at, Troy Parrott struggling to get into the first team at Excelsior. So you have to really look at who is in charge of this, and ultimately really work on why is it, because the other thing I've never understood is why don't we ever loan our youth players to Premier League teams? If you look at what the likes of other clubs do, it's a lot of the time to the lower Premier League teams, so they get Premier League experience, and actually if they're helping their team take points off of Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, United, that ultimately is a win-win, because they're playing well, they're getting game time, and they're taking points off our rivals. So it's one of those things that you really, I don't know what the specific answer is, but I do feel that Ange, that needs to be one of his biggest priorities, because if they can get that right and we can get a recruitment system in place that works well, particularly for the youth, and then a progression that shows from it, that will fit Spurs perfectly, and that's something that we look, even if we were doing similar to what Chelsea were doing, which was loaning players out and then selling them on for big profits, like City did with Cole Palmer, had a few games, they sold him on for 40 million. We should be looking to do similar things. That should be a similar thing that should be a progressive for us as a football club, and I don't get how it isn't.
Yeah, no, I like the idea of kind of having that model in place. Obviously, Chelsea and City, I think at academy level, arguably 2 biggest budgets out of everybody there as well. And obviously, Chelsea are famous for having the sort of lone WhatsApp group as well. But Travis, you've been waiting patiently. I think it looks like you've got the England game on in the background, because you keep peering over.
I wouldn't if I was you. I'm just keeping an eye on it here. It ain't anything special.
You know what? It's like watching paint dry. Watching this lot, honestly, it's painful. It really is.
Sorry to interrupt. I went up to the Malta game, and honestly, everything I paid to get up there, and the joys with the traffic, everything else, I was just like, have I actually bothered? I was expecting a similar like France Gibraltar game, but honestly, it was just like literally watching paint dry on paint already drying. That's how boring it was.
Brilliant. So Travis, we've got quite a bit to get through with you by the sounds of it, because we got to get your predicted lineup, and then perhaps your thoughts on Tottenham's youth policy as well. But we'll start off with your lineup first and your predicted lineup in terms of what Ange is going to go for.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing to Ashmatic. You was doing really, really well until you mentioned Eric Dyer.
I don't want him to be in the squad, but I just think Ange's going to go for him compared to what happened last game. I think he will. I don't want Dyer to be in the squad. I would prefer to have a risk it all Phillips and then maybe a Ben Davies next to him, or vice versa. So
you know what? For some reason, we get onto the subject to this guy every single podcast, and honestly, I can't look all the time. Every time someone mentions his name, I just have to switch off for 30 seconds. It's
Oh, that is brilliant.
My next hashtag is going to be "Don't talk about Eric Dyer."
Brilliant.
Don't. I literally leading up to this show, I had to get rid of my nervous twitch because every time someone said Dyer, like that, I'm with it.
Travis, is it to say you don't want Eric Dyer to start against Aston Villa on Sunday?
Yeah, he needs to be sold. I don't know how much you'd get for Eric Dyer, but anyway, yeah, it's been really interesting. Obviously, listening to what Ashmatic and sorry, what's your name? Justin. Sorry, Justin. Have been saying about players being brought through, obviously the academy and obviously the youth that we have within the team. I worry. I got disallowed. Sorry about that, guys. Streak on the pitch. Yeah, the youth. Obviously, we have within Tottenham. We've got a good youth, but I worry about this Phillips. Obviously, that we've got from Blackburn. He looks really, really good, and I've watched a few tutorials of him on YouTube. And he does look like a really good defender. You know, he's tall, he's quick, he's young, and obviously wants to learn. But when you look at the likes of Shed Spencer, we got from Nottingham Forest, he very rarely got a look in. I think he played 1 or 2 games, and that was all you saw of him. And obviously, he was sent on loan. He played so well for Nottingham Forest, had an absolute blinding, couple of seasons, and then obviously we bought him, but then sold him on. So I do worry about the youth that we have within the squad. Ryan Sessegnon, he's disappeared. I don't know if he's injured or if there's something more going on there. But yeah, I mean, getting forward as a team, it's never been an issue. It's the defence, and obviously now we've got Romero out, Van der Ven. I do really worry about what our defence is going to look like. Obviously for the future, while obviously these players are suspended and injured. But Eric Dyer, he did have a good game against Chelsea. He really did dig deep and had a really good game, I thought. But he's not consistent, and that's what worries me about Eric Dyer. He's like Harry Maguire. He has a good couple of games and then just dies off. But I think we do need to bring the youth through more. Obviously, with Phillips, I think he definitely needs to be given a go. Yeah, but it's just you can see how bad we used to be with these players out, James Maddison, Van der Ven, Romero. You can see, as I think someone said earlier, what it was like for us through the Mourinho era, the Conte era, and how bad we was. And it's going back to square one again to where it was. Obviously now these players are injured and suspended because we haven't got the quality to come off the bench to what's coming off the pitch.
Yeah, no, definitely, I'd agree with that. So, Travis, in terms of your predicted lineup, because I know that was one of the questions, I'm not saying you've dodged it or swerved it because you had a streaker coming through, but if you could just give us a little bit of an outline in terms of who you think Ange is going to go with on Sunday, what were you thinking he's going to go with?
I hate to say it, but I think it's going to be the same lineup we've had against Chelsea and Wolves our last 2 games. Obviously, I would drop Eric Dyer. I don't really like to single players out, but there's many reasons why I do not like Eric Dyer. Because obviously he has made sly comments on social media about the club and just the way he performs as a footballer, really. But I'd love to see Ashley Phillips put in there. I really would. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I think he's a good footballer as well. I know he's come from a different league. You know, he's playing the Premier League now, the hardest and best league in the world. But absolutely, I think we should give him a go. I think Eric Dyer he's like Adebayor. He's quite happy to sit there and coin in the money, you know, till he's sold on. I don't care whether I don't think he cares whether he stays or goes. But yeah, it's inevitably going to be the same lineup that was against Chelsea and Wolves. There's not really much else more we can do. Stick Basuma, Bentancur in the middle, and then Kulu, Sonny up front. Obviously, we're still waiting for Manor Solomon to come back from injury as well. We haven't seen too much of him, but I know he's another good player. So yeah, it's nothing. I don't think the team will change much for the Villa game, and I think we're going to struggle massively with our defence.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of how I think Andrew's going to go, he'd probably go with obviously Big Vic in goal, Vicario. I think he's actually got better with each game, pretty much, Vicario. I think the Brentford game was really shaky, and I think for me it was a case of like, what have we got here? I wasn't convinced, but then I think since then, credit to him, he has really knuckled down, and like I say, he's got better each game as it's gone on. Back four, I'm looking at probably Porro. I think it will be Dyer and Davis at the back again, centrally. I think having your doggy back is going to be a massive boost and a massive help as well. And then I think if he does get caught high, at least you've got Ben Davis, who's comfortable going out into those wider areas, and hopefully we'll be able to deal with it. I don't think Ben Davis is as bad as certain people make out. I think he's just a kind of steady Eddie sort of player. He's no frills.
I rate him extremely highly, Ben Davis.
So yeah, I just think he's one of those players that every squad kind of needs. But again, I think I'm a little bit similar to you, Travis, in the sense with Eric Dyer, he's just not it, I'm afraid. You look at the two Wolves goals, you look at the Sarabia goal, he's massively out of position for that one. Take nothing away from Sarabia's finish, but defensively, you know, he's, like I say, he's all over the place. And then the second goal, he's too busy looking at what's behind him to not realise that actually Mario Lemina's in front of him, and then Lemina runs off him and gets a touch to obviously seal the game for Wolves. Midfield three, I think, with no Basuma, it's going to be a case of Højbjerg, Sarr. I'd love it to be Bentancur. I really would, because he's probably my favourite player in this squad and in the team at the moment. But I think, similar to you, Ash, it could be Lo Celso. Although I don't know what's happened with him, because when he first turned up, he was wicked, and then is just massively fallen off a cliff. And it's a real shame. I wouldn't say he was like that Ericsson replacement, because I think they're slightly different in the way that they operate. But yeah, I think I would anticipate it being Bentancur, give him about an hour, and then maybe Lo Celso coming onto the pitch, depending on the state of the game. Could even be Oliver Skipp to sort of shore things up, and then maybe release Papsar. Up front, I don't think we've got too many options, so I think it's going to be Kulu, Sonny, and Brennan Johnson, who I have felt sorry for, actually, because for me, with Jono, Brennan Johnson, it's a case of he shows flashes of really good bits, but then, you know, look at the Chelsea game, he was the one being sacrificed after the first red card. You look at the Wolves game, like, yes, really good run from out to in to then get on the end of it to score, and was trying to, you know, make something happen within the game. Didn't work out for him, and things like that. But I am a bit gutted, similar to you, Travis, with Manor Solomon, because whenever I've seen him, he's absolutely rapid, and causes an absolute nightmare for defenders. And then, yeah, I think his quality as well. Obviously, we saw it at Fulham a lot last year, and I think he's going to be a really, really good player for signing as well. I think Manor Solomon. So yeah, I was really gutted to obviously see that he's out injured and going to be out for a while. But Justin, I'm going to come to you on this one. Obviously, Villa are our opponents on Sunday, and they are absolutely flying. But Justin, I want to know who's going to finish higher, Villa or Spurs?
Oh, that's a tough one. That is. My heart says Spurs.
Yeah.
My head says Villa. And the only reason I say that is because when you look at the ownership under Villa, they very much try and back the people that they have in charge. They did it under Dean Smith. They did it under Steven Gerrard. They're doing under Unai Emery. And I think the difference this time, though, is they've got the right man. This is a guy who's come in, knows exactly what he needs to, got his fingers burnt in terms of, his time at Arsenal, but then went away. The guy has won pretty much most places he's been to. And I just feel that from what we're hearing out of Tottenham, particularly around the fact of they're going to have to be very creative, they don't know if there's going to be a lot of business done and things like that. I do sort of feel that, particularly in January, I think Villa will go again in the window. I think they will buy probably just another 2-3 more players just to give them that push. And that's where I think that the difference will come into it. In terms of where both teams are at now, I said, my heart would say Spurs, but I just think, particularly with January coming up, I do worry about what Spurs will do, and I think Villa will do more business. So it's not going to be popular, but I kind of think Villa will finish higher. Sorry.
That's interesting. And my mum's popped up and said Spurs to finish higher. So she's got the faith. Ash, who's finishing higher, the mighty Spurs or Aston Villa?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with Justin because this is a Spurs show. More about the happy clapping, Big up your mom. You know what? Like, I would have said, I'd have agreed with Justin and said, like, if I looked at the squad, I reckon they have a bit more depth than Spurs. I saw Tielemans come on and I was like, whoa, what a player. And they got him for free. Jeez, we can come with a midfielder like that. Bailey, an option off the bench, just comes on, rips it up. He's got mad pace, doesn't even start. Like, it's crazy. But the one thing I'm looking at, and it depends on Unai Emery, how serious he takes this European competition, because we do know he loves a Europa. And this is Europa Conference. I don't think he's done it. I don't know. I'm just asking. I don't know. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. And I'm thinking he's going to take that competition a bit more serious if they get higher and higher up, which means the Premier League, I'm not going to say it's going to take a back seat, but I think they might finish 6th, do one better than last season, maybe 5th. I don't know. Spurs have one game a week. We're having our crisis right now, and I'm not mad at it. Let us have our crisis right now, because he said we're going to have bumps in the road. Maybe this is our bump. I'm willing to roll the bump. I'm willing to roll the injuries early in hope that after January, we can have that momentum. We can pick up that run and we'll have our strongest 11 back and we can push up the table. I do agree with Justin again. Oh, I don't like it, but he has a point. We know what Levy's like. It's not that type of show, but it would be nice if he did pull his finger out and backed this guy. And just the truth. He is the heartbeat. He's the main event. Look, he's the way. He's the only way, bro. And so if we were to, like, they're saying, we're going to have to be creative. I'm like, we sold Kane. They're saying, we spent Kane money already. I'm hoping that's all man games. That's what I'm hoping. And if it is...
The interesting thing will be is whether the Saudis are really serious about buying Richarlison, because obviously there's a lot of talk of that. And the Saudis have said they're going to go big in January. I think if they put 80 million on...
weird feeling that Richie don't want to leave. Don't ask me why. I want to believe in a rumor. I want to believe that he can get sold, but I've got a weird feeling that he's loving Big Ange instead, and he wants to stick around, and he thinks he's got more legs in him, and he's got a point to prove. I would ship him. Look, guys, I'm with you. See the comments? You see it on the panel?
See, to me, I would sell him for 80 million just for the irony of Everton. Because obviously Everton weren't happy that we didn't pay 80. And we could say, well, we sold him to the Saudis and they did pay 80. You know, just that little bit of irony.
It makes sense. That'd be funny. That'd be hilarious. However, I just don't think, I don't know. I can't see it happening. I would pop champers. Like, I'll be popping rocks. I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm not sure how much we're going to spend in January. I think we will buy some players. I think we may give in to Bournemouth's demands with 25 to 30 million, because apparently they rejected 20 million when we actually did put the bid in. Us and Liverpool. So I think we'll go back. We need that position filled in ASAP. Winger, Ange wants a winger, a 1v1 merchant. And we haven't really got that in our team, I don't think. Like, I know Kudu's quite good technically, but in terms of and I know Brennan Johnson's good at running in behind, but in terms of a man that can take a man on, I think that's what Ange wants. A man that can literally be a proper winger. And so if we can get that,
Jota, aren't they? They're
I'm not mad at Jota, you know. I know Scotland, people not rating that league, but I'm just looking at him as an individual, like what Brighton do. Because we can't be mad at Brighton, and then all of a sudden we start picking players from lower leagues and be like, "Oh no, he's not good." I like Jota. I will take him.
Yeah, I would as well. Definitely.
I like the way he floats inside as well. So I'm all for it. And if we got a striker that stopped Richarlison from getting on that pitch, like a Jimenez, I'm saying Spurs all the way over Aston Villa. Over to Travis.
Yeah, Ash, that was a really long-winded answer of just saying, yeah, Spurs are going to finish above Aston Villa, by the way.
I didn't know the rules. You didn't explain, sorry.
I'm for it. Don't worry. Travis, who's finishing higher, Aston Villa or Big Ange's Spurs?
Listen, I said in the previous podcast, about 3 podcasts ago, that we was going to win the league.
Okay. Right.
But then someone compared our Tottenham team to the Arsenal Invincibles. I don't know what's worse, to be fair, but
Jeez. I need to know what that person was having to eat or drink, because that is
that's optimism 101. That is.
That's just me being a believer, Tottenham fan. There's not much more to it. Yeah, I'm going to go with what Justin said. My heart obviously says Tottenham, but my head says Villa. Because they've got very good substitutions to what they've got on the pitch as well. Whereas that's where we lack.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, because I'm now going to side with Ash. I think we will finish above Aston Villa. I am with Ash in the sense that, okay, our squad, I actually think our squad depth isn't as bad as a lot of people make out. It's just our squad depth is just being tested to the limit because we've got loads and loads of players out, whether that be injuries or suspensions. But I think once we get those players back, I think we're in a much better position and a much better shape as a squad than obviously what it's looking like now. The scary thing is we're going to the Etihad without Romero and without Van der Ven, and Muggins here will be in attendance for that game as well. So that's going to be a fun afternoon at the office.
Years before that, Wesley, Jesus.
Yeah, well, full time. Man City 0, Tottenham 1. There's a script written there. I can see it.
And then do you wake up afterwards?
Listen, you know what, right? You say that, but the thing is, we've got City's number. Listen, we beat them without Conte in the dugout, and they still haven't scored at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Obviously, I know it's at the Etihad and everything else, but yeah, we just seem to have City's number for some.
Well, do you know what? I hope you and Beyonce enjoy that game very, very much. You know, and you're sitting there and you're watching the pigs fly over and everything else. 1-0 City. You've heard it here first. That's amazing.
But no, I think we will finish above Villa. Listen, I think Villa are going to have a really good season. I think I completely agree with everybody else in the fact that Villa's squad depth is really, really good. I mean, obviously, they've got, even at centre half, they've got the likes of Ezri Konsa, Pau Torres, who they nicked for like 50 million, and I still to this day don't know how he's ended up at Villa because he was getting nicked with everyone. They've even nicked Clement Longley from Barcelona, who we all thought was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
So he's on loan there, but they've still got Diego Carlos. I mean, they've still got Tyrone Mings, unfortunately. But again, like as Ash highlighted in the midfield, they've got like Tielemans, who's not even getting a look in. They've still got Kamara, who was brilliant last season. I think up top they've got some good options as well. But I just think once we get our more first 11 back, if you like. Listen, we've seen what the guys can do, and I think given that alongside the type and style of football that we've seen up until probably the Wolves game, I think it's something that every Tottenham fan is excited by and that we can get behind. And I actually said this to somebody the other day as well. If Ange finishes top 4, that is an unbelievable achievement for him and for Tottenham this season. And I think we're massively ahead of schedule if we finish top 4. I think Villa is just a case of like, right, let's just get ourselves back into Europe again. And listen, I think that is competition for those European places is going to be probably more competitive than ever because you've got Villa, you've still got West Ham, Bowen on fire, you've got Newcastle in the mix as well. And then add, the supposed big 6 in there as well. You've still got Brighton to add into that mix as well. So yeah, it's going to be really, really competitive. But I do see us finishing above Aston Villa. I don't know where, but I think we're going to finish above Villa. That is for sure. That is for sure. And Barney here has said Spurs to finish higher than Villa will definitely be top 7.
Legend. Absolute legend in the making. What a guy.
Love it. Guys, it's got to that time. We've got some questions that were put into Twitter. I think if anybody's got some for YouTube, then get them in quickly and we will go through them. Travis, going to start with you on this one. This one's coming from Barnaby at Barnaby Ambrose. How confident are you that Spurs will bring in what they require in the January window? We talk about a centre-back being a priority, obviously, amongst others. But, yeah, how confident are you that Spurs will bring in what we need in January?
I'm really confident. You've only got to look at our recruitment since Big Ange has obviously taken over. Bearing in mind, we didn't get anyone, obviously, through the Conte era and the Mourinho era. Not who we wanted anyway. We might have got a few players, but not who we actually truly needed. We need another centre-back. We need another midfielder, and we 100% need a new striker. I think as much as Richie wants to stay, I think Ange is giving the benefit of the doubt, but I can't see him being a Tottenham player by the end of the season.
And Justin, are you confident we're going to give Big Ange the keys, the tools to do the job that he needs to do?
I think it will depend on the creativity in terms of the spending. I think if we can do similar deals to like we've done with Porro and Kulusevski, then yes, that is where I think we're going to be looking at it. I think we're going to look at players either that have got 6 months left on their contract, like Nico Williams at Bilbao, other players that are coming up like that, or Jota, who, they don't want in the Saudi league. I think that Tottenham will look at players like that, look at deals like that, and I think we'll probably put it to Ange and we'll try and get some things done. So I would say a bare minimum a centre-back comes in, but I pretty much agree with what Travis said. I think a centre-back, a playmaker and a striker, 100%, especially as we've got the AFCON and we've got the Asia Games coming up, Asia Cup as well.
Yeah, no, completely agree with that. Ash, what are you telling me?
Yeah, pretty much the same as these two. I'd say that being imaginative is a part of being a Spurs side underneath Levy. We waited the whole January for Porro. So I wouldn't be surprised if we wait the whole window for one of our top targets. However, I think we might spend a bit early to kind of release some of the fans' kind of anxiety of the players we need. So we might get a few youth projects in. I know Juventus want to unload one of their players called Junior. He's at under 21, and Spurs are heavily linked with him, and he plays on the left wing, and that's a place that we've had a lot of injuries at, so I could see that happening. As Justin's already mentioned, there's deals to be done with players with contracts with less than 6 months left as well. So I could see a few players coming underneath there. Unwanted players as well. There's a player. This is one I'm like, I'm not sure, but there's a player at Chelsea called Trevor Chalobah.
Yeah, I know you mean. They were linked with him at the end of the previous window, and I know that's one they're looking to potentially revisit. I think that would be a brilliant signing for us. I really do, to give the competition.
Correct. I've looked at him properly, and I think he can play not just the centre back role, but he can play as a full back. He's competent on the ball. He's strong. He's physical. He's got the height. He's fast. The problem is he's a Chelsea boy. Will Chelsea sell to us? That's the question mark. But in terms of a loan deal, I think there might be something there to be spoken about. It might get a loan deal out of it. So it could kill a lot of birds with one stone with that one. He has played as a left-sided centre-back as well as a right-sided centre-back as well. So we're linked to many players at the moment. I'm hoping that we get... I feel like Spurs still need another technical player, because in the actual build-up phase, sometimes I'm not 100% that Spurs... We look a bit lethargic sometimes when we're trying to progress the ball out from the back. We looked a lot better with our starting 11, but when I looked at, it's like this, we run out of steam sometimes. I feel like when we're trying to progress the ball in that final third, or sometimes we just lack a bit of creativity. And I just feel like one more technical player in that position, whether they be on the wing or they be in midfield, I think that could take Spurs to that next level where we need to go. And I think up front, like Justin said, with Son going to the Asia games, I know it's only about 4 games, but a player that can drop in that hole, a bit like what Kane did, and look after it, because there's lots of times you sting the ball into the striker and he can't just do a simple first touch and then pass it into the wingers and then run into the box. And, you know, typically we've seen Ange's teams, and Celtic never really had a hold-up striker like that. So you don't necessarily need a player like that. You just need to have a busybody, someone that's in the box that can finish. But Richarlison lacking in confidence, lacking quality. If Son gets injured at those Asian games, then we would have to potentially rely on him or Valise. Do you know what I mean? And so I think getting an established striker, someone like Santiago Jimenez, that a lot of the Spurs fans have been speaking about, would be ideal if that price is between 40 and 45 million. I think we should jump at that, because he's getting up amazing numbers.
Yeah.
Wait till the summer and then go for him when he scored 30, 40 goals. Then we're going to be in queue with a host amount of clubs across Europe, and we're going to pay maybe double, or, you know, add a couple mil on top of that. So I would rather take the gamble. And I know people are like, oh, what about Janssen? Do you know what I mean? That's what everyone gets scared of. Will he fit our system? Will he fit? I think he's young enough and he's got the right build and attributes to do well. I wouldn't be too much of a risk, especially that Son's pushing on 32. Go on, Travis. Sorry. Go on.
Sorry. Yeah, really, really good, valid points there, Ash. Again, but I just want to go back to the season when we had Moussa Dembele and Christian Eriksen playing in the same team. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are missing that Moussa Dembele replacement. We have done for God knows how long now. Yeah. See, I think Papa Metassar, give him some time, I think he could really, really prove himself. But there's one player that doesn't play for Tottenham, who has recently just gone to another club. He plays for Manchester City. He's a midfielder, Mateo Kovacic. I personally believe he would fit so well into Angie's team. I really do think he would.
I love the idea of it, but I think that City wouldn't sell and they would want crazy money for it. I really do, particularly if it's just under contract.
He's going to be a bench warmer. He's not going to get many games. He come on.
I get what you're saying, but I think if you're looking realistically at players that will get out of City, I think they'll let Phillips go over Kovacic. Whether he fits us is a different matter, but I think if you're looking at City as a whole, I don't think they'll let Kovacic go. I think they'll let Phillips go because they can recoup a lot of the money they spent on him in the first place.
Yeah, Phillips, I'm like, you know what? I like the look of sorry to cut you, Wesley. You probably want to end the show now, but we'll get on to the next question. But I would like Pedro Goncalves from Sporting Lisbon. He's very technical and he can play not just on the wings, but he can play in the midfield. So that talk you're saying about that Moussa Dembele, someone that can dribble, not lose it. This guy's quite physical, wins the ball high up like a Bentancur, but he's got the ability to actually travel with the ball, take players on, be on a half turn, have those technical passes as well, you know, like a pass through the eye of the needle. That's what I'm talking about. It's one more technical player that can hold on to it, like you said, the partnership. For me, Basuma, I don't know about you, Wes, but for me, Basuma was becoming that guy. He was a person that could get on a half turn, beat a man, take the pull up, and then also he could sit as well and win his defensive battles as well. And against Man United, when he did the Cruyff turn against Casemiro, that's when I almost wet my pants. I was like, whoa, is that Musa? Darkston Musa, is that you? Like, I thought it was a second coming, of course. But I literally thought it was. I see, wow. Performance is
oh, there's an image I'm gonna struggle to sleep without that image. Cheers for that.
Do you know what? It's difficult for me to talk about anybody who knows me knows that he is the greatest of all time, and he is my favourite ever Tottenham player. Like, period. So, yeah, I've heard other people going like, yeah, this one's like the next. I'm there like, relax yourself, like calm, because there was nobody as good as Moose. But yeah, dark skinned Moussa Dembele. I might have to nick that one, Ash, if you're going to let me. I think January is a really, really important window for Spurs. But I think it's more important for the players we get out the door as opposed to the ones we get in the door. Because there is still a little bit of deadwood there. You look at someone like Hugo Lloris that's nicking a wage still. Sessegnon's got 6 months left on his contract. What's going to happen there? For me personally, I think it's time that we cut our losses on him and get rid. I think there's obviously the Perisic situation. There's rumours that he was supposed to be going to Dinamo Zagreb, I think, before. He obviously snapped his ACL. But again, the decision needs to be made with regards to him, whether he stays or goes. Obviously, there was rumours of Højbjerg going, and I think there still is in January as well. I think for me, if Højbjerg does leave, then Calvin Phillips gets down the lane and join Angeball for me, because I think Calvin Phillips is a very, very underrated footballer. The biggest compliment I can pay him is when we played against Leeds, when they had Bielsa in charge. And he ended up playing sweeper in that game. And I didn't know he was a holding midfielder playing sweeper that game, because he was just absolutely brilliant. And I think he marshalled Harry Kane unbelievably well. So I think Calvin Phillips would be an unbelievably good and smart signing from a Tottenham point of view in January. But like I said, I think for us, it's more about the players we get out the door as opposed to the ones we get in. So it might be that we have to suffer a little bit squad depth wise in January and onwards to then reap the rewards potentially later on in the sort of Ange project. So it might be that we have to get a few out, 2 or 3 out in January to then go again, maybe get 1 in January and then look at the summer and be like, right, let's see what we can do. So like I say, we might have to
get one side in. You reckon that's it? One side in?
Potentially. I think it, like I say, it depends on outgoings, but I think a lot of the work for January from the football club's point of view, from a recruitment perspective, is probably done. It's just
unless
a case
they can get Lloyd Kelly or Adebayo, because both of them got 6 months left on their contract.
Yeah, so I think it could be a case of getting 1 in, maybe 2, but then you get a surprise in every transfer window in terms of, oh, this player's become available, right? Do we act now or do we wait 6, 12 months to to act and stuff like that. I think that's just the way it works and the way it goes. Another question though, at Ding Dong Will on Twitter said, let's get to the bottom of the Rafinha rumor now. Ash, you've been talking about a 1v1 winger who is a specialist. Does Rafinha tick those boxes?
He's a demon. A 1v1 demon. That's what he is. We're not getting him. I would love him.
I would love him as well, but money talks, and I think Barca would want a lot of money.
We're just not that type of club. We're not that type of club.
Rafinha, to be honest.
We're like a wheeler dealer. You know what I'm saying? We're not that kind of.
The only way they do anything is if we do something with Lo Celso, because obviously they got Gavi injured, is it?
Yes.
For Spain, tore his ACL. So there's talk they want Lo Celso. Maybe that's the way you get around it.
It's the only way, because they said Romero, and that ain't happening, because you can't give with one hand and take with the other. It doesn't make no sense. Make the math. If the math ain't mathing, it ain't gonna work. So for me, it's got no legs. Yeah, Lo Celso is the only way. If we get Lo Celso and a bit of cash, because I know they want money. They want moolah. It's Barca. They're in FFP kind of trouble. I don't know. Everton got done, but like all the other clubs are just laughing. Like Man City are walking by, Newcastle twerking. Like, but as soon as Everton do something, they get a slap. What are you doing? You're out of line. So yeah, Barca need the moolah. They need the money. But yeah, I would love Rafinha. I wanted Rafinha over Richarlison, and I was disappointed when he went to Barcelona. I can't blame him. He's Brazilian, you want to go back to that's their path in life. Like, they're in the favelas, they're in the ghetto, and then that's what one day they want to get to Barcelona. That's like their heaven. So I'm not mad at it. But yeah, 70 mil for me. Yeah, not Spurs.
Is anybody though opposed to this potential swap with Lo Celso and Rafinha, or is it a case of
Barcelona?
Let's have it. Justin, are you like, yeah?
No, I'd love it. But I don't see Barcelona doing it because they're still going to want crazy money.
Listen, Daniel Levy trying to do business with Barcelona will be embarrassing in itself. So,
well, we've got Longley and Emerson from them, so the relationship can't be that bad.
Yeah, but it's working in their favour because if anybody,
we've done them favours, not the other way round.
Yeah.
We've got Giovanni Dos Santos. He's not turned up any trees either. So to be fair, Barcelona aren't going to be looking at us to do us a favour, more like the other way round.
Yeah, although whilst Levy's in Spain, if he pops over to Madrid and has a word with Jude, do you know what I mean? No one would be opposed to that, will they? Get a man like Jude in the building. We'll have a.
Apparently, we're linked to his brother or keeping tabs on him. So.
Yeah, I think that's paper. I wouldn't say paper talk, but keeping tabs is just a standard kind of thing. Like, yeah, clubs send scouts to watch games all over the country all the time. His brother is tearing it up as well, to be fair, in the Championship with Sunderland. So I don't know what's in the genes in the Bellingham family, but I think it needs to be shared out, because to have two absolute ballers before the age of like 21 is absolutely outrageous. I've got one last question that I'm going to read out because the other one I don't think we're going to make happen. So this is from @Thomas Horsland. He said, not really related, but top 5 biggest rivals / teams you hate the most in football in order from 1 to 5. Does anybody want to go first, or are they happy for me to start?
Yeah, go on.
So for me, number 1 is Chelsea. Can't stand them. Hate them with an absolute passion. And I was gutted that I couldn't go to the game a couple of weeks ago. Then I would probably go Arsenal off the back because their fans are just, like 1 week it's Arteta in and he's the best thing since sliced bread. And then the next thing he's out and you don't know what he's doing, Robbie. I'd then go West Ham. I never used to mind West Ham. Then I went to university and now I can't stand them. I would probably then go Liverpool after that. Their fans are just think they're entitled brats, basically. And then I think after then, I'm going to go AFC Wimbledon because I have Milton Keynes connections. And AFC Wimbledon, for me as a football club, are quite hypocritical in some of the things that they have moaned about from MK Dons. And yet they've done things in a fairly similar way, just perhaps not on the biggest scale. So those are my 5 that I would hate, 1 to 5.
Yeah,
I'll go with Arsenal, Chelsea, United, because I've never known a team that moans so much about their owners and it's acceptable, yet we moan about our owners and it's like, no, hang on a minute. Whoa, we can't do that. Your owners look after you. And you're like, actually, your owners have won you a lot more trophy than ours. So, I would then probably have to say, going down from that, probably now City, because just from where City were, bearing in mind we had the run on them and Peter Crouch got us into the top 4, and now we're seeing what they're becoming, and it's like, ugh. And then I'd say Crystal Palace, because there's just that annoyance with going. No, sorry, I'll take Palace out. West Ham.
Yeah.
The reason for it is I don't get it. I said, when you look at Chelsea and West Ham, for some reason, West Ham and Chelsea is meant to be their own rivalry, yet they some reason hate us more, and I don't get it. It's like, really, you would have. It's like they'd happily lose to each other just so they could batter Tottenham. So yeah, it would be a case of Arsenal, Chelsea, United, City, and West Ham.
Fair play. Who's next?
Well, go on, I'll do it.
Go on.
Arsenal, it's, you know what it is? It's what you're exposed to. Like, I just know every 2 blocks there's an Arsenal fan that's gonna jump out of somewhere, and I just can't get away from them. They're just everywhere. They're like germs, man. It's mad. And there's an Arsenal fan. It's crazy. So it's mad. But I would have said Chelsea. Well, I don't know as many Chelsea fans as I thought I would. I don't know. It's crazy. I know more United fans. United fans are just stuck in the past. They're bossy. They're show-offs. Like, they're dead. They're dead. But they still want to come after. They still want to talk. Anytime you go after United fan, they start talking about the Fergie years all the time. And they just talk about, I hate fans that just talk about, oh, what have you won? What's your trophy? Do you know what I'm saying? That's all they've got, bro. It's so yeah, Arsenal, United, and then I'll say Chelsea. Then Liverpool, kind of the same. They're fans with their high chest looking down at you, bro. Them, and obviously they got Klopp. They've done it recent, so that's why they're back now. But I remember a time when we were much better than Liverpool. We kept finishing above them. I remember this is before the Klopp era. It was like a small window when I thought Spurs could get to that level. And Klopp came along, and we were still there with Poch. And then it came to that final, and it's like Liverpool got backed. We never. Do you know what I'm saying? And then Liverpool went boom, and we just stayed like somewhere around here, like that's the top 4, and that's the top. That's where we stayed. So Liverpool fans piss me off because I feel like we should be where they are. And then my next gear, what else grinds my gears? I said what? Arsenal.
Arsenal, United, Liverpool.
One more.
West Ham, surely.
I don't know that many West Ham fans. I'll be real. And the ones I do know,
they're like a little rash that gets a bit leery every now and then. You just got to slap
they don't get smoky with me. They don't get smoky with me. Like, I've gone to a couple West Ham games, but they don't really chuck it my way. But so I'm not really mad at them. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what? Fuck it. I'll just say West Ham. West Ham. A local rival. You know, the old firm. Obviously, as our firm versus their firm, I think that's what really spurred the rivalry on, if I'm being honest. It was like, that's the reason why they probably hate Chelsea more than us, because I think Tottenham's firm was stronger. Maybe that's why they hate us more. We used to punch them up a bit. I know Millwall's the biggest firm, but, we weren't too far after that. But, yeah, West Ham, we used to take players from them all the time. Carrick, Defoe. They were a feeder club. I can understand why they're mad at Tottenham. Do you know what I mean? I would be. We've had great memories with some of their ex-players. So, yeah. But apart from that, yeah, that's my top 5, man.
Travis?
I'm going to go Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, and West Ham.
Nice.
And I've only got one reason for that. We have got the most humble manager in the whole of the Premier League. And that's not a biased opinion. That is facts.
That's true.
I like it. And I think, Travis, that is a really good way and a fitting end to maybe wrap up the show. It has been absolutely brilliant, gents. I have to say, first time meeting you all, and I think we could be here for hours, which is always a good sign. Just going to go around and hopefully tell everybody where they can find you all doing your thing. So I'm going to start with you, Ash. Where can people see you? Giving more lines like the dark skin Moussa Dembele and Yves Bissouma.
You can find me at Southview Coys. You can find me tomorrow, actually. I've got a massive show on tomorrow. I'm doing a breakdown, a preview on Aston Villa and a breakdown on Ange's tactics as a whole for the season so far. So yeah, man, if you guys can join in and watch and then jump in the comments, I will love that, man. I really love that, man. But again, love for you guys for inviting me on. Lovely to meet you guys. I've met Justin before, so big up Justin, regular on our shows as well. I love you guys to come on my show at some point. Big up to people in the comments, and for the silent viewers as well, big yourselves up, because I'm one of them. I'm one of those people that I just I don't even type. I'm just like a sniper. So yeah, I get it, man. But yeah, big up, and yeah, Southview Quiz, man.
Nice. Justin, where can people find you doing your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm kind of just here, there, and everywhere. As I said, I've done a few shows with Ash. I've been on here with Harry before. I kind of just pop on, spout my bit about Spurs, and then I go again. But so yeah, it's either on these sort of things, or you can find me on Twitter. I said if there's something I've said and you're not sure about, I'll happy to have a debate with. I'm happy to debate with most people. So yeah, thank you so much for having us on.
Not a problem. And Travis, where can people find you doing your thing?
You find me at Official Caster. Obviously, I talk a lot about mental health on Twitter. When there's an Arsenal game, there's always very kind words about our most liked Mikel Arteta. And just football in general, really. I just want to do a big shout out to Harry. Obviously, I know he's on a different show tonight. I know Barney's watching as well. But these guys are huge advocates for neurodiversity and autism. I think what they do for this show and in general is absolutely fantastic. And it's a really good show that Harry's obviously got going. He's got lots and lots of people on here now. Some really good people, some really good guests. It's just nice to meet obviously different people and obviously their views on Tottenham. So yeah, another great show tonight. Brilliant to meet you, Ash, Wesley, and Justin. Hopefully I'll see you again on another podcast very soon.
Yeah, brilliant. And people, strap yourselves in, because this is probably the longest outro you're ever likely to see or hear in your life. So Twitter for me is at Wezo10, the unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account. Usually tweeting about the greatest of all time, the greatest that has ever worn a Spurs shirt in my lifetime. 100%. Don't tend to get too involved in Twitter debates, because I'll end up getting cancelled or suspended for it. Instagram is at Wezo32. I'm usually at a Spurs game somewhere. Unfortunately, I'm not in attendance though at the game on Sunday because I'm working, and I have been fully booked up with stuff for a little while, so unfortunately I can't get it moved, so I'm able to attend the game. But yeah, like I say, usually at a Spurs game somewhere. And then I run my own football coaching business as well in the Milton Keynes area, Dele Alli country, for those people that don't know where it is. So it's Kickoff Football Academy or at Kofa MK across all of the social media channels and platforms. But more importantly, do not forget to subscribe and follow not only these guys, Harry as well. And until next time, come on you Spurs.
Come on you Spurs.